to share my personal journey to success with you, but I have to throw a disclaimer in there because my journey includes the words SPANX, crotch, and G-string. So for the men in the room, brace yourselves. About 15 years ago, I remember I was sitting in a convention. I was a fax sales rep, and with the company I worked for, Danka, I was there because I was one of the top sales reps in the country. And at that point in my life, I had always wanted to be a lawyer, but I basically failed the LSAT. I'm not a good test taker. So I found myself, after that, driving to Disney World and trying out to be goofy with my college degree, making my family very, very proud. And unfortunately, you have to be 5'8" to be goofy, and I'm 5'6", so they made me a chipmunk. And that didn't work out, so there I was selling fax machines door to door, sitting at this convention, and this larger-than-life speaker got up on stage, and he said, "I'm going to prove to you today in 4 words that there is no such thing as a bad idea." And he continued on to go, "Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles." So I never in my wildest dreams could have imagined sitting there that 5 years later I would come up with an invention and be able to prove to the world in 2 words that there was no such thing as a bad idea. And that is footless pantyhose. It all started with my own butt. I did not like the way that it looked in white pants. So just like so many women out there, we struggle on what to wear under things. There are traditional shapers that were too thick and left lines and bulges. There was underwear that leaves a panty line. And then along came the thong, which still completely confuses me because all that did was put underwear exactly where we had been trying to get it out of. So I decided to take matters into my own hands, and I cut the feet out of control top pantyhose, threw them on under my white pants, looked fabulous, felt great, but they rolled up my legs all night. And at the end of that night, I went to a party in Buckhead. I said to myself, I have got to figure out a way to create this so that it stays down on the leg. I didn't know what to do. Like I had mentioned, I'd never taken a business class before. I was working selling fax machines during the day. I ended up getting on the internet and looking up hosiery mills. And I went to a website called thomasnet.com, where I found a list of all U.S. manufacturers, and I literally went down the list finding hosiery and shapewear and started calling each one of them on the phone. Well, I did this for about 6 to 8 months, and everybody said the same thing, which was basically no. I believed in my product. I still wanted to get it made, so I started going to all the local craft stores here in Atlanta. I went to Michael's, I went to Hancock Fabric, and I started making homemade versions of my idea. Buying little stretchy elastic lace, paper clipping them, sewing them to the ends of the pantyhose. I needed it to stop just below the knee because that way it was invisible on your thigh and you got all the great shaping under your pants. At the same time that I'm trying to get this made at the manufacturers, I decide, you know what, I believe in this idea, I want to patent it. So I ended up calling, I went on the internet and I looked up at Martin Hubble, 3 A-rated law firms here in Atlanta. I called them on the phone. I said, I'd like to make an appointment. I took my lucky red backpack, and I went to each one of the calls. And the first one that I went to later admitted to me that he thought my idea was so bad that he thought I had been sent by Candid Camera. So you can imagine I'm presenting to him my footless pantyhose and telling him how I'm going to change the world one woman at a time, and he is looking around the room during my entire presentation, apparently for the hidden camera. And they all quoted me between $3,000 and $5,000 to patent my idea. And I had $5,000 total in my savings to do this idea. So I decided to write my own patent. I went to Barnes & Noble on Peachtree Drive, and I bought a book called Patents and Trademarks, and I started writing my own patent. At the same time that I'm writing it, I'm still determined to get it made, so I take a week off of work and drive around North Carolina and go in person to all the manufacturers that had been telling me no thanks on the phone.